Manchester and the boxing world pays tribute to the people's champion, Ricky Hatton. Hello there, you're watching Sky Sports News on a day that we say goodbye to and celebrate the life of a boxing icon. The funeral service of Ricky Hatton has taken place at Manchester Cathedral. He died last month at the age of 46. An emotional occasion for friends, family and fans who said one last goodbye. Famous faces, including Tyson Fury and other stars from the sporting world, were in attendance to pay tribute. And earlier, thousands lined the streets of Greater Manchester to pay their respects to the hitman. Well, plenty of British boxing's greats turned out for Hatton's funeral, keen to pay tribute to the man and the boxer himself. Let's now cross once again to Andy, Scott and Ben Ransom.
Yeah, thank you. We are at the Cathedral, where that journey around Manchester from Tameside and the streets where Ricky grew up and right through the city where he spent his entire life, which is why he is and always will be remembered as the people's champion. It culminated here, Andy, Scott, in a very emotive ceremony. Boxing's great and the good here, but also the man and woman on the street, which is the mark of the man.
Yeah, as humbling as it was to be inside, the pictures outside told you a lot, didn't they? That a lot of people had been just under the bridge, off camera where we were, down at the arena, and then come up, and then as the cortege came round, they ran to the front so they could see the coffin go in. The pallbearers included son, Campbell, brother Matthew, there was Jack Hatton, nephew, and Paul Speak, and it was a real moment in time, I found. I know you were out on the route earlier, and that gave you that sense of, even out at the Cheshire Cheese, to see people that had turned out with the flares and the flags. But this moment here, as Ricky made his final journey in there, you just see that pain and emotion, etched on the faces. You know, it was a tough watch, wasn't it? Because it was like his last passage, and Ray and Carol, their mum and dad, the tributes in the church, Ben, I have to say, they were really heartfelt and hard. And what Ray and Carol particularly had said was, you know, we just want him to be at peace now, peace and happiness, and I hope that is the case. And I think that a lot of the time the sentiment is echoed by the people that you were with this morning. This was down, 9:45 this morning, and look at the people that were out.
Exactly that. The streets were lined from 8:30, those crowds built right around the route. Look, we're in Hattersley, where Ricky grew up, and that sense that he never left the community was so prevalent. The doves being released there in what was another emotive moment, and it got me to thinking. It was the toughest part for me of the day was at the very start there, watching the cortege come past and seeing through the window, seeing Campbell and seeing Fern and seeing Millie, his children, and seeing the impact that the day was already having on them. But they will have felt the love, won't they, from the people lining the streets, thousands upon thousands. We see going past his gym there. I drove through this part of the route just ahead of the cortege, and all the way down through Hyde, outside the town hall, right past the gym in Denton, where he put in so much work with Billy Graham, and then all the way on into the city centre, where so much of the street furniture, be it lampposts or be it pedestrian crossings, were covered in sky blue ribbons, same colour as the coffin, balloons. People wanted to really mark this route, and they came out in their numbers. And then, of course, we arrived here at the Cathedral. Again, a huge crowd had gathered, and so many that weren't on the invite list stood outside and just listened. And standing amongst them, it was just silence. People wanted to hang on every single word right through the service that went on for around an hour, finished around 1 o'clock, and then these were the scenes as Ricky's coffin was brought out for the final time before making its way on the last leg of what has been an incredibly sad journey. But it must be remembered, this is also a celebration of the life of someone who touched so many in Manchester, culminating at his beloved Manchester City Football Club and at a stadium where he got to have a fight, a really important fight, as he rebuilt after his first loss against Floyd Mayweather Jr. No wonder they call him the People's Champion.
Yeah, it in a number of ways, it built the foundations for the next generation of British fighters to come through from Manchester. That's key there. There was a photo montage played to live forever. And it was great that Liam was in attendance today. It was so powerful. And I echo what we said earlier. It was great that Billy Graham came out as well. They did it together. Let's be honest, that Hatton Zoo night, it was as much for Billy Graham as it was for Ricky in what culminated that life work, that body of work. Tyson Fury was one of those that benefited from Ricky's generosity. When Tyson was coming back, when he was, overweight, struggling with his own mental health, he used Hatton's gym and they built back together. And Ricky was very much building back, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was. I went to the gym to speak to Tyson. Then Mike Jackson, who was Ricky's right-hand man,
who's here today, yeah.
He was here today, very emotional. He sent me a little text message and said, "Oh, by the way, Tyson's in the gym." So I went down with a camera on the off chance I might be able to see Tyson. And I mean, it's become part of the folklore of the Fury story, hasn't it? That moment when he went back in, hugely overweight, off the back of not training, off the back of that falling into despair mentally, and the fact that he turned to Ricky, and Ricky was the one who put his arm around him, and they were able to start building together. I think it was incredibly powerful, actually, to see that and to see Tyson here today. And that was the very gym there where that moment happened. I mean, this is a moment in boxing history, because let's not forget, Tyson Fury went on to become, again, a heavyweight champion of the world. He went on to have the first undisputed fight in 20 or so years. That's because of what happened inside that building.
Yeah, I was lucky enough, if I can use that phrase, to go to Muhammad Ali's funeral and cover that for Sky Sports News. And that was a very different event because Muhammad Ali, despite illness in later years, had lived a long and fruitful life, and it was a celebration of his life. Obviously, these circumstances are very, very different. Ricky should have been 47 on Monday. But still, for people to turn out like that, those scenes were reminiscent of what I saw in Louisville, Kentucky, when, we're talking about Muhammad Ali here. I'm not sort of saying that Ricky Hatton was our Muhammad Ali, but the scenes were very, very similar. People felt that that he was bigger than boxing because he was.
And I think I'm right in saying this. Muhammad Ali opened that gym.
In 2009, yeah. The shots were shown in the cathedral. We were there that day. It was latter stages of his illness, but he's still there. He still gave a fist to the camera. And it was incredible, and we're going to show you some pictures now from inside the cathedral. This was the moment that the coffin made its way into Manchester Cathedral just after midday.
I love that particular version of Blue Moon, because obviously that is the version that Manchester City come out to now, but it wasn't always the case. They used to come out to the traditional 90s, I think it was late 50s maybe, version. That changed because of Ricky Hatton. Ricky got that version. That was part of his ring walk. It was the kind of crash and the bang, and it was an iconic moment. I remember when he walked out of the Etihad Stadium to fight Juan Lozcano, but Andy, the real night in Manchester that will live in the memory was the Costa Zoo night, 2005, inside the Manchester Arena, and one of, if not the best atmospheres British boxing's ever seen.
I think the uniqueness with that is that because it was on primetime American time, it was like 2 a.m. before he walked to the ring. I mean, can you imagine now? You know, we have done it in the past, but people were well oiled, but people were ready. You know, people were ready for that moment, the anticipation. I do penny for the thoughts of Costa Zoo. You know, you've been to I call it the old MEN now because it's been revamped, but you've been in those dressing rooms. The uniqueness of that is that you can hear the rumble in the dressing room. So Costa Zoo will have heard, you know, 22,000, let's be real, there weren't many there for Costa Zoo, 22,000 ready and waiting. You know, I don't think we'll ever get anything like that. I don't think I'm overselling it, that it is one of, if not the best win by a Brit here against the odds. You know, very few people gave Ricky a chance, did they? And that catapulted him. The reason I'm still laughing, though, is because they spoke with great love and admiration for each other afterwards. And I didn't catch him, but I think Dave Parris, the referee, was here today. And he had a torrid night because actually it was a fight full of fouls. Yeah. You know, they both went low. He hit Costa Zoo so low it hit him in the kneecaps almost. And you do think back now, like, they stood arm in arm. We had Ian Dark on earlier, didn't we? And he linked to that brilliant piece of commentary, the dream is made real. Yeah. And Ricky and Costa stood together, didn't he? And they addressed the crowd. And he said, we did it together, Ricky, to the fans. And, you know, it's very short life, isn't it? They did it together again today. He went into the cathedral with the fans adoring him still. You know, that's where he went. And all those pictures that we've seen today, he went to the Etihad, you know, where there's a wake taking place now with the fans. Left the Cheshire Cheese this morning at 9:45 with the fans. It was all about the fans for Ricky.
Yeah, I think it paved the way, certainly, for fights in Manchester. I know we'll hear from Anthony Quiller in a little while, someone who had great nights at the Manchester Arena, loud nights, because of what Ricky did before. That's one of the reasons Mancunian fans come out in their numbers to experience that atmosphere. But of course, the atmosphere inside the cathedral was incredibly emotive today. We can hear now from Adam Smith, someone who knew Ricky from all the way back when he started his career in the late 90s and right through the 2000s, the Costa Zoo night, the Las Vegas trips as well, which were brought to you on Sky Sports. This was what Adam Smith had to say to the congregation a little bit earlier on.
Richard, Rick, Ricky. More like a Rocky story, which led to a roller coaster of fabulous nights, taking a down-to-earth lad from Hyde to Vegas and into the Boxing Hall of Fame. With those spine-tingling blue moon ring walks and rip-roaring action, Richard Hatton, MBE, was both a sporting icon and a working-class hero. Growing up in boxing with the spiky blonde teenager was a pleasure and an absolute riot. In and out of the house, the gym, the pubs, the clubs, how we rolled with him. He became a member of the Sky Sports family, and we really felt part of his. He never ever turned down an interview or a photo, and his wicked humour made him even more infectious to be around. Ricky Hatton. His love of KFC, not UFC. 15-week training camps, 12 rounds war, 12 to 15 pints of Guinness. Once upon a time, Richard was not good enough to play for his beloved Manchester City. He was an absolutely shocking carpet fitter. But boy, could he fight. Ray and Carol were at boxing shows everywhere, bringing both Richard and Matthew through the toughest of sports. With our brilliant cameraman, Caney, many an evening we had at the Hatton household. Even when Rick moved out, he'd always chuck us his front door keys. Make a brew, he said. Make yourself at home. Nothing was a problem. Richard was a star young amateur, lifting an ABA title amongst many medals. But it was when he turned pro in 1997 that the show really began. Trainer Billy Graham told us he was the most talented youngster he'd ever seen, and promoter Frank Warren was then to guide him expertly to major honours. There was Billy's infamous body belt, along with Bobby Rimmer, Kerry Kays, Mick Williamson, Paul Speak, of course, and a support from a cast of fellow fighters, Stephen Bell, Paul Smith, Matt Macklin, and many others, including, of course, his own brother Matthew. Even Jamie Moore and Anthony Farnell always seemed to be near, both United fans and largely in other gyms, but they all loved Ricky. Frank and Sky were there from his debut in Widnes, and I remember him driving me around a few weeks later in an old banger. I asked him if he thought he would ever change when success came. He said, "Adam, whatever belts I win, just take them all off me if people think I'm too big for my boots." Ricky was at his happiest playing darts down the local with his mates like the Duck. It was his love of a pint and a fry-up which meant the nation fell head over heels. His popularity simply eclipsed everything, most notably when more than 30,000 descended on Vegas for that huge clash with Floyd Mayweather, before we even had social media. The hitman's mix of technical ability, aggression, and lethal body shots lit up boxing. Yes, he could get badly cut, like in his British title win against Jonathan Thaxton, but this just added to the appeal, and he got out of trouble with those venomous attacks, which meant increasing crowds and huge events. Ricky turned the Manchester arena behind us into his fortress, and he united this city. Which other Blue could have had Wayne Rooney carrying the belts? Liam and Noel did. Half of Corrie wanted to. Half of Manchester, you, me, we all craved being ringside, and for that night after. Ricky also inspired generations to come. I've seen them both here today. Anthony Croller, Dalton Smith, and others watched as kids high in the stands on Hatton fight nights. And we all remember the early hours of June the 5th, 2005, when Ricky dethroned Kostya Tszyu, forcing the pound-for-pound king to retire after 11 pulsating rounds and lifting the world light welterweight title, etched in fighting folklore forever. Rick promised me he'd be at my wedding the week later, and with Tenerife parties planned, I had my doubts. But of course he was there, and I'm sure many of you will have similar personal moments and memories looking through all the unprecedented outpouring of love. An American venture against Luis Collazo gave Ricky world titles in 2 weights, and after that stunning KO of Jose Luis Castillo, the hitman was unbeaten in 43 when he met Mayweather in a fight for the ages. The build-up was insane. The fans drunk Vegas dry, but the defeat rained hard on Ricky. Rick felt he'd let you all down, and that breaks my heart because he was an incredible fighter who won 45 times with 32 knockouts on some of the biggest stages. Ricky took the defeats to Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao hard, and he was open about his mental health struggles. It's brilliant to see the Ricky Hatton Foundation launched this week. He became a promoter, a trainer, and a sensational after-dinner speaker. Rick was so generous in giving of his time to family, to friends, support to charity, and guiding young fighters, particularly his own son, Campbell. And it is Campbell we think of. Jennifer's beloved daughters, Millie and Fern, granddaughter, Lila, all the family, Carol, Ray, Matthew, Jenna, Jack, I know, all of everyone's family. We stand by you all today, all of us, and going forwards. Ricky Hatton's memory and legacy will live on through each of us. A warrior and a legend. I know, my friend, you never changed, and that's rare. Ricky was always Ricky, relatable and liked by anyone and everyone, the people's champion. I will forever love him, his fights, his friendship, his fun, his adoration of life. We all will. What a ride it was. There is and only ever will be one Ricky Hatton.
Oh, an incredible eulogy, Andy, from Adam Smith there. Someone who, as you heard, lived and breathed every single step of the Ricky Hatton journey, whether it was as a fighter or later on in life as well. Delivered, I mean, fantastically well. Such a tough thing to have to do. So many difficult moments to come to terms with from that service.
Yeah. Can you imagine how difficult it is to stay neutral in our job? But I think, you know, speaking for Adam, I hope he doesn't mind, he ended up loving Ricky Hatton, loved him, and he gave a great eulogy, to be fair. And the eulogies were very, very powerful, Ben, I have to be honest. The two girls, Fern and Millie, were pre-recorded. Campbell stood up, and more power to Campbell. Found the strength to do it. If you shut your eyes, it sounded like Ricky, and if you opened your eyes, he looked like Ricky. And he gave such an emotional address to everybody that was there, and you could hear a pin drop. It was immaculately observed. And I did make some notes from Carol's tribute, which was read out for her, and she just ended with these words, you know, hopefully our son has found eternal peace. That would be our final wish. And I think everybody will echo that.
Yeah, he is someone who spoke very candidly about his battle with mental health, about his battle with drink and drugs at various times. He struggled to replicate the highs of those big Las Vegas nights, and I think if you haven't seen the Hatton documentary, you can still watch it on Sky. It is incredibly powerful, more emotive now probably than when it first was aired, but he speaks there quite openly about the fact he never felt as though he was able to deliver for the fans.
Sorry, forgive me, Robert. We're live on the news. I don't want to keep you. You had a unique observation point that we were talking about how much we loved Ricky Hatton. We loved Ricky Hatton, and we felt like the American audience was jealous of us because you guys wanted what we had, and then you got it. You got it over in America. I wonder if Vegas ever recovered from Ricky Hatton. Certainly never recovered from the Ricky Hatton fans. I think I've heard you tell this story before, but it's almost impossible to drink Las Vegas dry, but the British fans somehow managed to do it, and nobody really knows how.
You guys have a special talent when it comes to that, and you have one of the greatest to represent. Not only represent Manchester, but represent UK, and that was Ricky. Ricky, I think we've said it many times. Those who knew Ricky, that you got what you see. You know, he was real. He wasn't the celebrity. He wasn't the famous boxer. He was one of the people, and I think that's what made him special. To me personally, growing up in Julio Cesar Chavez, Oscar de la Hoya eras, Canelo now, I don't think we'll ever see. And that's why it's so fitting. There's always and will always only be one Ricky Hatton.
Can I just say thank you so much? I've jumped on you as you're trying to make your way out, and you've travelled all the way over for this, and I know how grateful the Hatton family are for that, and we're really grateful that you've given up your time on Scott.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Sorry.
That's okay. I tangled myself, but thank you. Robert Diaz, Golden Boy matchmaker, who literally was there for the best, the best bits.
And it's worth pointing out how unusual it was back then for a British fighter to have such fame in America.
Yeah.
It was about those sold out Las Vegas shows were unusual.
Yeah, very much so. Very much. I used the quote earlier. I don't mind using it again. Like Noel Gallagher has said about the Oasis reunion. You know, you'll never forget how people made you feel, and I copy and paste that for Ricky. He never You never forget how Ricky Hatton made you feel as a British boxing fan, and he made us believe, and it didn't matter win, lose or draw, it didn't matter. He made the impossible possible, and that's why so many people travelled around the world to see him.
He brought joy. I think it's fair to say we all have Ricky Hatton stories. We'll keep telling them through the afternoon, I'm sure. I just want to finish by touching on that point about the fact that Ricky has spoken so openly about himself, that he felt as though he let people down, particularly around the Mayweather loss, particularly around the Pacquiao fight, and he could never shake that. Well, I think the turnout, not just here at the cathedral, outside and on the entire 12-mile route that the funeral procession passed today, the fact that fans came out, gave up their time because they wanted to be there to say their farewell and pay their respects to Ricky Hatton, should hopefully finally settle that for Ricky. He was loved by this city. He will remain loved forever, and I'm certain there will be a permanent tribute erected, but for now we all have our memories. Andy, thank you very much for your time today as well, because
Thank
I know
you very
for you
much.
it's been incredibly emotional.
There is only, and there'll only ever be one Ricky Hatton. That's all I've got to say about it.